Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am so excited to introduce you to my new friend, David Schnurman. He has done some pretty epic things, but we're going to start with the fact that he is a TEDx speaker. He is an entrepreneur. He is an author. He's the CEO of Lawline. He is an adventure seeker, for sure, a dad and a husband. He has also driven in Bill Clinton's motorcade while he was president. He has run 3 marathons, one of which he spent the night in the hospital for an infection 2 months prior and then turned around and ran a marathon. He is also what he calls himself a Shaw, which is a self-help addict. And he is the proud owner, sometimes, of Coco the Golden Doodle. And today he's our guest on Productive Joy. David, welcome.
Christy, that was so impressive. People don't realize how hard it is too. And some of those facts you just learned to say on the fly and so well. So thank you for that and the energy and the joy that you gave me for saying it.
Well, it's called Productive Joy for a reason, and we are going to have some fun today. But David, here's the reality. As cool as I just made you sound, people by nature are only going to listen if you capture their attention. So what would you say to grab them and make them want to listen to this episode?
That's a lot of pressure.
I know, right?
When I was in my mid 40s, 42, let's say, I hit what you can call midlife rut, right? And rock bottom. I have 3 kids, 6 and under. My oldest are twins. And my company was doing okay, but we could barely handle the nighttime routine, the morning routine, and everything in between. And also, I was just so sick of just going to work, coming home. And I just kind of hit sort of rock bottom, but not that there's any financial issues. And so I had to figure out a way to get through that. And by trying to get through that, I wasn't trying to figure out how to travel the world or move to Barcelona, but to solve that, there's a direct connection to how I moved to Barcelona 4 years later. And that's what we'll talk about today.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned that you're an adventure seeker to the tune of moving your entire family to Barcelona with 11 suitcases. Is that accurate?
11 suitcases. It almost was a lot more until the morning of. And I realized 2 of the duffel bags that we had brought were from their sleepaway camps, were huge. I looked at them in the morning of. I'm like, I've never seen something this big in an airport before. So I called Delta the morning we were leaving and I said, here's the size of it or whatever. And they're like, sorry, sir, those are too big for under the plane. So I had to 5 hours before a flight, go shopping for suitcases. And I luckily found 4 smaller suitcases that I was able to put them to. So that's how we ended up with 11 suitcases the morning of the flight.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I mentioned before we started that my mother moved to Ecuador this year with 10 suitcases with 2 people. So I'm going to guess that you pared down to only the bare essentials and you put everybody on a plane, but that did not happen overnight. You mentioned 4 years. So talk me through from waking up and going, I'm stuck and I don't want to be stuck anymore, to we're going to travel the world and try something new.
I asked one of my friends, I asked a lot of people, I'm like, do you have any recommendations on parenting? And he said, okay, here's a book you need to get. And it was called 3 Big Questions for a Frantic Family. And the author was Patrick Lencioni, who also wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Teen. He happens to have 4 kids. And so what that book does, it takes all the things that you learn for business, core values, mission, priorities, and applies it to your family. And I love that stuff. And I focus on it all the time for my work life. My wife is not into that stuff, but we were struggling so much. She's like, let's do it. And so what we did was we actually sat down with our twins, who were 6 at the time, and we were trying to create a statement. What's unique about us as a family? So we all went around the kitchen table and said a word that stood out to them. And so my daughter said eating healthy. My son said sense of humor. My wife said being positive. And I said travel. And then it took some time, but then we created this unique statement. We're unique in that it mentioned all those things. And it said, and we want to experience life through travel. At that time, I don't even know what that meant. Maybe it meant one big trip. We weren't traveling at all. Before the kids were born, my wife and I traveled a lot. And that's just deep in who we are. So I just wanted to sort of get back there at some point in our life, but I also wanted to instill that in our kids. And so what I've learned in life, the book, The Secret, Think and Grow Rich, and on is you have to put out into the world what you want to get back. So I was
Yeah.
telling everybody I knew about this unique, what made us unique and what we want to experience life through travel. So one of the people that I told, he's like, oh, you want to do that? You need to speak to this guy, David Rich. He moved his family to Barcelona for a year. He recently came back and he said it was transformative. So we got put together. We started talking. It took 4 years and maybe a dozen conversations and getting together with him to finally help us build up the confidence to start taking the mini steps to say, okay, I think we can do this. And 4 years of like never thinking it was really happening until it happened.
Wow. So I'm going to guess a lot of really big life changes happened in those 4 years before you even went on the adventure that changed everything, right? So the people listening are looking for more productive joy. They are leaders who want to do things a little differently. What are one or two of the discoveries that had to happen that took you from an idea to an execution? Because I appreciated what you said about, it took a dozen conversations and a whole lot of thought. What are one or two of those realizations that might help our listeners?
Well, I could tell you what actually specifically happened.
Okay.
I wrote my first book and it took me years to write that book. And I was writing that book during that entire time. And the book was published maybe 6 months before we left. And it was directly tied to us leaving. And it was called The Fast Forward Mindset. And it's how to be more fearless and focused in your life. Specifically, it was how to get out of your comfort zone and stay out longer. And I was trying to build a 20-year blueprint for myself and for others so I can live my life without regrets, because that's my biggest fear of like not doing enough, not accomplishing enough. And so I put together a framework and I used that framework literally to take action, not fall back into like my comfort zone, and then to find the focus to actually do the trip. And my wife was a big part. And so when there was actually a timing that worked out too. My twins are going from elementary to middle school in 2019. And so they had to switch schools. So actually timing wise, there was no better time to do it because they were already leaving all their friends. And so I said, Kelly, let's use the framework and see if we can, my wife, and we can make this happen. Cause like, let's eat our own dog food.
Yeah.
And so even when we were going through each little step, applying for a visa, applying to get into the school, we hired somebody to help us with getting accustomed to find an apartment. Each step along the way, we still thought, there was always like you can eject anytime and move forward. Even when we told people, I told my parents we're moving. We didn't fully internally make the decision yet, but we were just telling everybody that we made it. And when you tell enough people, you sort of have to do it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, congratulations, that's amazing. Or that's terrible or whatever. And so that's what happened during that time period to make it happen.
So your framework works and you had to walk the walk. Like, so I think about if I go way back, I was teaching at a high school and I was asked to leave the classroom and go run a program. And I never saw myself leaving the classroom. That was where my heart was. I thought I was meant to do that for life. I had, been teaching since I was teaching stuffed animals as a 5-year-old. But I had been telling my students daily, y'all push out of your comfort zone, try new things. You've got to, when an opportunity presents itself, you need to go after it. I couldn't be the hypocrite that said, go do this. I'm going to stay here and be comfortable, but go do this. And it sounds like something similar happened to you where you went, yeah, here's my framework. I got to use it.
Well, I'll tell you this, that there's a lot of books that are out there about how to get out of your comfort zone. That part was easy, but the challenging part was once you get out, most people, especially for me, like an ADHD entrepreneur, I like to try new things all the time. The hard part is once you're out, many times you want to go back to the safety because you're like, what did I just do? Oh my God. And then once you're out of it for a little bit, you get lost and you need the focus. Like you need to set goals and deadline and structure to get you there. And so I needed that for myself, and most people need that. And like one of the parts that I love most about the book was like, okay, once you're out of it, what are some strategies to keep you mentally from falling back in?
Yeah.
And so we were scared all along the way. We were scared when we arrived in and like not scared like we weren't going to wasn't scared for our lives, right? But it was scared. It was just everything about it. Like, was this the right decision? Should we have done it? And so so like there were some challenges in the beginning, I can share with you as we go through, like some of the things that really transformed the trip for us to make it a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Well, you casually mentioned that you moved in 2019, and we all know what happened in 2020. So I'm going to guess there were some opportunities unforeseen that happened right around March that made everybody kind of open their eyes and go, oh, geez, we did a thing.
Yeah. So COVID happened 7 months into our trip. And it's ironic because we moved to Barcelona to expand our world and to travel. And we had traveled. We'd gone to Switzerland, we'd gone to Morocco, Italy, Portugal, France, and a lot through Spain. And so like we were living that, and we were living the dream. And then we end up in the strictest lockdown in Europe. Spain, our kids could not leave the apartment for 52 days. Like, and thank God for my wife. One of the requirements of the apartments that we got, it had to have a terrace. And if we did not have that terrace, and a lot of people don't, right? And we have a decent sized apartment, but like that is where like you sort of had to like regrow in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I did one strategy for me, which was really helpful, where I did 100 days of yoga. I never done yoga a day in my life, but I was having panic attacks. Like, you're in a different country. What if something happens? You don't know what to do. And so that was really helpful. And what was really sort of level set us was and I know it maybe happened in the States a little bit too, but every night at 8 p.m., everybody would go on their terraces and start clapping.
Yeah.
First, we didn't know what was going on. We went out there. I have a video, and I just start crying, not out of sadness or happiness. It was just like the emotional of the moment of like, wow.
Yeah.
And then they started playing this song. Like one day, our neighbor, it was Catalan, so they didn't speak English. They just, under the terrace, there was a little slit. They gave us a piece of paper, and it was I think it was in Spanish. I don't think Catalan. And I was just like, what is this? Then all of a sudden on speakers, this beautiful song started playing. And in English, it's called "We Will Toast Again" in person.
Yeah.
And every night they would play it. And like the chorus, even today, I found that on YouTube, it gives me chills because it was such a like unique time in our lives. So yeah, so that was an interesting point. The upside was, after the lockdown, life was much better for us in Spain than my family and friends in Brooklyn. And ultimately, that's, we can get to it. That's one of the reasons why we ended up staying another year, versus we were originally only moving for a year, but we ended up staying a second year because of what was happening.
Well, because you had 4 or 5 months of not really living there, right? Like, it wouldn't have mattered where you were in the world. It was going to look similar. But I'm going to guess, well, now, and I shouldn't say that entirely. I experienced the pandemic in Florida. And so within a couple months, we just pretended that nothing was happening. And talking to friends, particularly in New York, that didn't happen for such a long time. I'm curious, and this is tangential, but I think you'll have some good answers. 52 days for children to be indoors with only a terrace. Have you seen residual realizations, issues, whatever, in your kids because of that experience? Because I know, and this is speaking from my experience, COVID wrecked my children in so many ways, because they were freshmen in college and they had just experienced a little bit of freedom and a little bit of being out on their own. And then everything came crashing down. That has had residual effects. Do you see any?
So I would say this. Number one, the main reason we stayed in Barcelona was we knew that in Brooklyn, the entire next year in Brooklyn, schools were, the whole year was Zoom.
Yep.
The kids were in person. And so this happened in March, right? And so they only had 2 months before school was over. And I feel like someone really exciting just walked in.
Yes, say nice.
But so they only had 2 months of this. But so the answer is long-term, no. If they were on Zoom for another year, yes, 100%. Yeah. And I could tell you, probably being in Barcelona, the weather got nice pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So if it was like cold still and dark early, and then the time changed, and we were all going through it. One thing we did do, we created our own rituals and routines. But we started watching movies from the 80s that
gotta love that. And
they got addicted to them, and they loved them, and we loved them. And so every night we do a movie. We would play like, tag in the apartment and ball. We'd drive our neighbors crazy. It'd be like, put the cushions on the couch, on the floor, and the floor is lava. And like, we came up with a lot of activities. But I remember the first time when it was like maybe 2 weeks in, they had school vacation and we had like 10 days without school and they couldn't leave the apartment and it wasn't warm enough yet. We were just so depressed and like, we just, and you're afraid to get sick and all, like, it was tough.
It built
Not as tough
us.
as for some, but it was tough in that moment.
No, it built all of us a little different. And so our daughter teaches kindergarten, and this is the first year that these are COVID babies. These are babies that were born during COVID. And, and yet her hardest year was her first year when those kids hadn't gone to preschool because of COVID. And now we're starting kindergarten first time ever face to face. So everybody had a slightly different experience, right? And depending on where you were, I just wondered if, experiencing it in a place very different from here might have created some things. So here's where I want to go with this conversation.
Yeah.
Because what you just described about playing lava with your kids and finding the joy in the moment leads me to my favorite question, which is, if you had to define productive joy, how would you define it?
And just before I even answer that, the other thing, what my kids did, we started a newscast because our family was back in New York.
Yeah.
So every day my son would interview either my daughter or us and say, tell them what we did today. And then we would share that newscast, and we had like a TV screen with the thing. We would share it with our family. I also journaled every day and I shared that as well. So how would I define productive joy? That is a great question because I think it's one of the reasons I felt compelled to write this book. For me, and now my family, productive joy is getting uncomfortable together through travel, through adventure travel. And since we've been back, like, again, when we made that unique, what made us unique, we didn't travel at all with the kids. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even think, maybe to like a beach somewhere. But so since then, and since we come back, it's our kids who are saying, where's our next trip? What are we going to do after this? And since we've been back, we just came back from Argentina and Patagonia, and we went to Japan and New Zealand and Australia and Israel. And every trip involves a lot of flights, a lot of different things, and we're all get uncomfortable. And I could just say, you only have this, you know this, your kids are out of the house. You only have about 18 years and whatever for your kids to be under one roof. And when we're all doing the same thing together and being uncomfortable together and trying new things is my happiest. When we're in the day-to-day and our kids are going to school and they barely talk to me for 5 minutes, it sucks, because I'm busy, they're busy. And when I say, how was your school? They don't want to talk. But when we're like in a new place, in a hotel room together, it's unbelievable.
What a beautiful just testimony to you control your destiny, right? Like you don't have to continue with the status quo. You can shake that up, and you did. And I think many of us are very afraid to do that. So, you mentioned it took 4 years for you. It took my mother 3 months from the day she decided that they were moving to the day they left. And we all thought, what the heck? And they're 75 and they're in a different phase in life, but that involved selling everything they own, including their house, and going.
Just to that point, I didn't want to wait till I was 75 to do an experience. Like, by the way, this was never, it's not something like since I was a kid, this was my destiny.
Right.
Like, we're going to move abroad. Like, it was just never, I live 5 blocks from where I grew up right now. And I've always lived in New York, except for college. So you just hear it so often and your feed gets filled up on Instagram, at least mine. Like, when the people run there on their deathbeds and the hospice nurses, they say there's like a couple of things that they always say on and on again. One, they wish they spent more time with family.
Yeah.
But the number one thing they say is they wish they didn't live somebody else's life, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, they spent more time with family. And number 3, they wish they traveled more.
Yeah.
And so like, I took those things seriously and we all did. And so like, I'm so grateful. And that's why like the book, if I could show it real quick.
Yes, please.
The picture on the cover, I don't know if you'll be able to see it because it's a little blurred with my spotlight.
Yeah, I see it.
It's the picture of our family. And it's the picture is us with all of our suitcases at the airport. But then we superimpose the background, which is our view from our terrace in Barcelona.
Oh, I love it.
And so, that's.
Well, and okay, so we mentioned your first book by name. I think people have probably inferred the name of the second book, but go ahead and tell us 2 things. 1, name of your book and where people could get it. And 2, if I were to pick it up, what am I going to learn?
Yeah. So have you written a book?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
I
like
don't know if
birthing a child.
what's the name of your book?
Mine's called Learning Can Stick.
Learning Can Stick.
Yes.
How easy. So I'll tell you this. It is tough to come up with the right title for your book. And I'm sure you went through this. Okay, good. So it was like, I was so indecisive trying to figure it out. And the first title of the book, which I was proud of, and some people didn't, was The Year We Said Yes.
Oh.
And I was going with that, and I'll explain why in a second. And we almost went with that until, unbeknownst to me, Shonda Rhimes has a book called
The Year of Yes. Yeah.
The Year of Yes. And so when we started like field testing that, people were like, why are you copying her? I'm like, I didn't even know that book existed.
Right.
And so I just decided, and also like my son didn't like, I don't know. It just didn't give the story of like, it wasn't clear what we were traveling. And it was like, they do get married. Like, and so we went through a lot, and the reason that was almost the first book, the first title, is the first month we were there, I felt like an imposter, because you would meet people, especially I went to this one event for New Parents Barbecue, and I would meet these people, and they're like, oh yeah, we're from Italy. We just came from living in Hong Kong, or we just came from Morocco, and we're coming here, and this is our next thing. And they're like, where are you from? Where have you traveled to? I was like, I'm from Brooklyn. I came from Brooklyn. And so I was like, what's going on? And then the dean gave this speech, and he's been doing this for 15 years. And he said, in my 15 years of being a dean of an international school, I've learned one truth. You're going to be invited to a lot of events, WhatsApp groups, trips, museum tours, lunches, and you have one job this year. Your job is to say yes. Say yes to that thing you're uncomfortable doing. Say yes to the new group that you're part of. Say yes to doing whatever you normally do, because that is what the magic of this year is about. And I got chills right now saying it, and I got chills when he said that, because it just resonated so much. And then like I remember, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the year of yes.
Yeah.
And I remember like 2 days later, there was like a new parents museum tour. That's why I mentioned it. And never in a million years would I do that. But I'm like, I got to say yes, right? Yeah. I went on the tour. It was good. And I'll tell you what happened. We like, let's go out to lunch afterwards. And we ended up going out to lunch with another couple that became one of our best friends from the trip and beyond that. And like, I was like, oh, okay. And I can give you example after example. And I know you asked the question about something. I don't think I fully answered it.
No, you went in a much better direction. And I don't really remember where I was headed either. But I think the being willing to say yes is that life lesson. So again, the people that are listening want more productive joy. That's the whole premise of the podcast. It's the idea behind it, is that joy is a choice, and we get to create more of it or not, right? That choice is ours. And what I hear out of you with your 11 suitcases, which I do remember you were supposed to tell us the name of your book and where people could find it, and then what they
11suitcases.com.
Say it one more time, because I was talking over you.
Yeah. So 11suitcases.com, you can spell out 11 or just put the number 11, and it will take you there. And then you can learn about the book. There's some other things on the site, as well as a link to Amazon.
Yeah. And if I were to pick it up, it sounds like I'm going to be encouraged to say yes, because that was originally your topic or your title. I think what I already feel, and again, I cyberstalked you, so I'm cheating a little, but ultimately it's the power of decisions and the ability to influence your future. You can't control it, but you can absolutely influence where you head because of it. What am I missing?
So I'll say I purposely made this book. It's a memoir. So it's in first person, present tense, the experience that we went through. The reason I wanted to go that it has lessons. I'm going to share those lessons in a second. But my first book was clearly, it had a lot of my personal story, but it was clearly a self-help book with the structure. Yeah. And here's what you follow. Yeah. Because that's the structure that we followed. I didn't want to just create here's a new, better, improved structure. I didn't even push that in this book. So the purpose of the book is to inspire or empower you to realize it's never too late. Turn your ship. If I could share a story.
Yes, please.
Of what what the takeaway was and why I wrote the book. So when we first, and I know there's a question you asked that I'm not even following again.
Nope, okay. You're doing so good. It's perfect.
Okay. So when I first got there, I decided to start writing, and I was journaling about it. I'm like, let me publish this. So I put it on a blog, and I started sharing it on Facebook with my family and friends, because I wanted them to know what we were doing. I started getting this reaction that I was not anticipating, where people were reaching out to me and like, oh my God, I loved your story. It's inspiring us to do something with our story. And we've dealt with we went abroad too, or we want to go abroad. And there was one person, his name was Joe Jacoby. He was he was a kayaker in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. And he once he was there, he stayed for life, and he became a coach. And he reached out to me. He's like, "Can we have lunch?" I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
And so we had lunch in Toro Park near my house. It was a beautiful day. And he goes, "I want to tell you something. I've been following your blog, and I love it. But here's what I want to make sure you know: you have to keep writing." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, of course. Why?" I was like, and he's like, he's a coach. He's like, "I want to give you an analogy that I share with my clients." He's like, "When you're young in life, you feel like you're on a kayak in a river, and you can turn around and you can go either direction. You can do anything. Then you get into a race boat. Then you get into a yacht, and you get
Yeah.
into a large boat until you're in your mid 40s and your midlife, and you feel like you're in a container ship
Yeah.
that can't turn, and
Yeah.
you're stuck, and it can't move fast, and it's just stuck in the direction." He's like, "But you, in your midlife with 3 kids, you did turn your ship, and you
Mm.
did go in a different direction, and you tried something different, and you're here, and other people need to see that that's possible." I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." And then I can tell you a month later, I was in a group, we had a forum, which is a monthly meeting with expats and locals that was really helpful for me. And I go to them, "Guys, listen to me now. I am turning these journals into a book someday."
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like that year, 5 years. It took 5 years, but 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 that's when I knew I had to write. I had to, because a lot of people experience this, but most people don't write it down
Mhm.
and if you and share what they went through in a
Mhm.
true. I share the true version of parenting
Yeah.
abroad, and it's not. If you had challenges in Brooklyn, then you get easier when you move to another country.
I was gonna say it's not cute. I'm sure it was not always cute.
Yeah.
Well, I could legitimately talk to you all day because you are fascinating, but you also are able to put those ideas and those thoughts into something that people can grab, which is probably why that person said keep writing. Go ahead, David.
Well, you said the perfect what they can grab. And so as I was reviewing the book and going backwards, and not that I'm trying to make it a formula, but I did see a clear theme and formula with ChatGPT's help.
Yeah.
But it is very clear that I do want to give people a little bit of structure
Yeah.
on what they can do. And so when you look back at what we did, is there was clear intent. It's intention plus overcoming fear equals achieving your dream or your vision. And so the clear intention was we created our own unique vision and rallying cry of who we were as a family. Right. And so that was one. And then number 2 was we had our year of yes. So we got here and we had clear intention of what we were trying to do. So it wasn't like haphazard things were happening. We had those 2 things. Then we had to overcome a lot of fear. Every trip, even to this day, there's 2 things that I always think about and have to get through is maybe later, maybe we'll do this another time. We're too busy in life. Or what about this issue? What about cost? What about a simpler trip? And those happen all the time. And it's just realizing those are always reasons. Those are fear and challenges pushing you to not do that kind of thing. And so those type of things we had to kind of move through and grow as a family. And you can't those are always the things that push us to not do it, travel and everything else. And then finally, it was the travel, the dream that I had in 2015. Now it's 2025, 2026. We're living that live a life through travel. And like, it was a pipe dream when I wrote it.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is traveling was not just about traveling to your country, it was about growing together.
Yeah.
And it's become like when a kid, I believe this, when your kids say, where are we traveling to next? Are the same kids who, when they're adults or in their 20s, who won't limit themselves and
Right.
say, what can I do next? And I hate to say it, but I believe the cliche is true to some form. It's not whether you can afford to travel, it's whether you can afford not to travel.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be moving to Barcelona. It doesn't have to be a big trip. It can be literally right next door where you live. I would just implore you to try at least once a year to do a trip that's not just a beach. It's something that we all get it and comfortable and grow together. It will pay.
Yes, and I would love to be able to go back and tell myself that when my kids were younger, but now I get to do it with my adult children and recognize that it's okay to shake things up because we were the family that went to the same spot every year with the whole family, and that's
Which is
wonderful
great, too.
and lovely, great
Yeah.
memories, but we finally went, we don't want to we want to do something different. And I think that's what you are giving us all the reminder of today, David, is that it's okay to pivot and it's okay to change things up. So again, I could talk to you all day. I know people will stop listening and we don't want that. So
Okay, fine.
Can I ask you some rapid fire questions?
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. What's your definition of fun?
Outside, to me, I like things that are outside the box and undefined and unsure. And so a great I'll just keep this with travel. What is not fun for me is traveling with a group of 50 people, 60 people, and it's defined. It's when we go and we don't really have a clear path of what we're doing, and the day can turn into whatever we choose to go to. That is fun for me.
I think that's
is not knowing any of these questions to this interview and getting them on the spot. That is fun for me.
Yeah. So a little bit of surprise, a little bit of thinking on your feet, which, you know, that ADHD entrepreneur, it makes good sense.
Yeah. Exactly.
How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
It's an important part of our culture from day one that there's no work person, there's no individual person. And so you know, the people when you're around them, you're like, I just don't feel like myself around them, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so for me, this right now, this is my authentic self in one version. And then the other version is the goofy guy who my kids like make fun of me all the time. So
that's their job, by the way.
They were totally, but I still bother. And so those are two versions of my authentic self. I would say anything in between sometimes it's a little bit more challenging for me. So, you know, there's the clear definition that I'm sure I could say that everybody will get. But and when I'm one-on-one with somebody, it's much easier for me to be my authentic self than when I'm in a group of like 10 to 15 people, because I struggle a little bit more there.
You're a little more morphy, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
You know, I have all these answers. I'm like, I don't know if these answers are things that I've learned or things that are actually me.
Doesn't matter.
Right. But they are true to some degree. So one of the best lessons that I got was I've worked with coaches and I believe in coaches. And this is a stoicism concept. And it's in my first book. It's the only two things you can control in life are how you think and how you feel. And too often you let outside things that you cannot control affect who you are and what you do. And so you constantly have to remind yourself on that. And number two, I have my own podcast. I just interviewed somebody yesterday who, when he was 43 years old, had a heart attack, not because of his being unhealthy, because of stress and anger. He was a lawyer in court and he had a heart attack in court. And you just need to remind yourself, like, stress is real. Stress could kill in many different ways. And nobody knows why we're here in this world. Nobody really truly, I mean, yes, there's faith and there's religion, but still, like, we're all trying to figure this out at the same time. And so any decision that I make today will have zero consequence 50 years from today, let alone probably a year or two. So just, you have to remember the insignificance of yourself.
Yeah. And that gets you through those tough days for sure. All right. Last question, not an easy question, because gosh,
it's harder. Oh no.
Wisdom. I know you have just dropped so much wisdom and things to think about, but by nature, our brains can only hold on to one major idea in 30 minutes. So what's the major thing that you want to leave people with today, David?
It is never, I'll go with what Joe Jacoby said. It is never too late to turn your ship, especially when you're in midlife, especially when you have 3 kids, especially when you're tired and you're in the routine and you don't think it's possible. It's 100% possible. You don't have to take the path that I took and move to Barcelona, or you could. But my recommendation, if I have one action step that will help you move in this direction, is take the first step that I took, is sit around your family table and put together a phrase of what's unique about your family. Everyone say a word that's important to them, and then spend a little bit of time and turn that into a phrase. And this is what you aspire. This is your core values, who you continue to be. And then just start telling everybody about that. There's more you can do. You can buy my book, but you can also buy the book, 3 Big Questions for a Frantic Family. But those are the things that I would recommend, because if you don't focus on the issues you're having today and you focus on the 10 years from today, you're able to sort of get through some of the daily challenges. So that would be my message. It's never too late. Turn your ship. Thank you, Joe.
Well, David, you are a delight. And I am so grateful that you are prolific with your writing and that you are able to help other people gain something they may never have otherwise by putting that in print and giving it to others. And listeners, y'all, this was just fun. And if you didn't enjoy it, then I don't think you were listening very carefully, because there were lots and lots of nuggets of wisdom. And the biggest one being, go find out what's unique about your family. I love that concept. Or maybe you're going to grab onto intention plus overcoming fear equals achieving your mission. I think that's true personally, professionally, and all points in between. I don't know what you're walking away with today, but I know you need to walk away with something. And then the whole reason that we have this podcast is because I want you to do something differently as a result. So I need you to take that thing and do me a favor and turn fun into action.